There's a lot of power when an organization can get that information at their fingertips. And we've heard a lot of great success stories where organizations have always thought they were understaffed or that they weren't bringing in as much as their peers, and they're able to show that, or they're able to justify the need for increased support through benchmarking reports, or the need for increased staffing and resources through these kinds of reports. So it doesn't mean that organizations are going to look at these reports and suddenly change what they do, but it means that they can start a dialogue, a common conversation. When you do really have apples to apples information, there's a lot of power behind it. So a lot can be done with that. The other side of having this wealth of data available is research and advocacy, really the fact-based decision-making that people need to make. You can look at broad analyses and overviews of the cultural sector. You can do the traditional economic impact analysis. It's important data for regional cultural planning, economic development. You can look at specific needs within the cultural sector, how a particular discipline looks. There's many ways to slice and dice the data, right? So there's a lot that can happen. I just want to give a couple quick examples of how data has already been used in various states that have adopted and embraced the Cultural Data Project. One is just crunching the numbers in a particular region. Back in 2006, our regional advocacy organization in Philadelphia crunched numbers and had no idea that this is what the cultural sector looked like. 14,000 employees, 12 million visits, 1 million combined memberships and individual contributions. These kinds of information just weren't known. We knew it was a strong sector, we knew it was a vital and vibrant sector, but without these kinds of numbers to back it up, it was hard to say. We had no idea that there were 92 capital campaigns underway at the same time, right? A lot of people are very quiet about their capital campaigns, and were trying to raise $1.1 billion. Well, one thing this finding did was it sent the advocacy group to the local city council to get them to float a bond to support capital projects in arts and cultural organizations to start to fill that gap. But when you have that information, you can make those cases. The other thing that was fascinating was those 14,000 jobs made arts and culture the second largest employment sector in the region. Who knew? Unfortunately, as you see, this is pretty much the lowest paid sector, which we probably knew. You can look at disciplines, look at theater. In this case, in the Philadelphia region, theater was always known as a vibrant artistic discipline. We like to consider ourselves a theater town. But when you analyze the data, it's great to see that there's more work being done, more performances, but when you see a steady decrease in the total attendance performance, it starts a conversation about supply and demand. But without this kind of information, how would you really know that? Again, it forces the theater community to come together and address these issues that they face. Organizational health. I mean, there's not always good news when you look at organizational health. You can look at things like capitalization structures of organizations and understand how the sector is doing. And unfortunately, to see that a lot of organizations are moderately or severely undercapitalized. But a message that sends to the funding community is, what do we need to do differently? Or what do we need to do to address this situation in the sector? So again, without those kinds of fact-based information, there's a lot of anecdotal sort of guesswork happening. Our wise legislature decided, hey, let's tax the arts. It's just people in tuxedos going to the opera. They don't mind paying a sales tax on their tickets and memberships and subscriptions, and that'll make $100 million new dollars. Well, actually, no. Data was pulled. The advocacy organizations pulled that and said, actually, you're going to tax the arts, and you're going to raise about $13 million annually. And it's going to be on the backs of about 4,000 mostly small nonprofit cultural institutions. And sure enough, that was removed from the state budget when it passed. So when you have those numbers at your fingertips, right. So when you talk about return on investment and this kind of information at your fingertips, it's very powerful. And we're really pleased with the results we've had to date. And now that we operate in 7 states, you'll hope to see more and more successes come from this kind of information. So what's next? I hope I've been able to kind of share at a very somewhat fast clip the power of how a unified voice can demonstrate the impact, the assets, and the needs of the cultural sector. We're actively working, as you heard, with a task force of funders and advocates throughout the state of Michigan who are hoping to bring the CDP to your state in May of 2010. And I've been around to many states over the past few years, and I just want to make sure you all recognize how lucky you are to have such strong supporters and advocates here in Michigan. To take a turn for the worse, we told you know, you probably have some bigger issues you want to work through. We're glad to wait this out. When you're ready, tell us, you know, we'll come back and we'll work together. And you know what they said to us? No, we're not waiting. They said this is the most crucial time to have a tool like this, and we're going to continue to work to bring it to the state. So I hope you realize how valuable and how vital your supporters and advocates are in the state. So if you're with an arts organization here in Michigan, we're looking forward to the potential of bringing the Cultural Data Project to you and to helping get started. If you're an arts supporter here in Michigan, we need to talk about how you can get involved. No matter what, we as a sector need to stand up, be counted, and be heard. Thank you.
Neville, thank you for sharing your thoughts and perspectives and your lessons learned on the CDP. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to work with you and your team. May 1st, 2010, look out, here it comes to Michigan. At this time, I want to introduce the chair of ArtServe Michigan's Board of Directors, Randy Paschke, to introduce the presentation of the 2009 Arts Legacy Awards to Michigan's auto industry leadership. Randy?
Thank you. Not being an artist, I'm an accountant. And the CDP is actually quite exciting to me. It's something I really could understand. It's about numbers and data. And what's really neat about it is none of the arts institutions who are going to benefit from this are going to be paying for it. This is all being paid for by foundations and the grants and the money they're giving to make this happen. And I think we really need to thank them for that. Throughout history, artists, arts, and culture institutions have been supported by benefactors and patrons. We've seen it in our own times: government support, private philanthropic support, corporate support, and in more modern times, revenue from ticket sales, subscription sales, museum shops, whatever generates revenue to keep these institutions alive and vibrant. But we've seen things change. In our state alone, we've seen state government funding for the arts and culture drop from approximately $27 million in 2002 to less than $2.3 million in the 2010 budget recently signed, which puts Michigan among the lowest states investing in the arts. We've also seen corporate philanthropic support for the arts drop by almost 50%, as corporations in these times reduce their philanthropy and or shift it towards education, health, and social services. All of us in this room understand the benefits of a strong arts and cultural community. We know that children who participate in arts programs do better in school, they do better later in life. Artistically vibrant communities attract new business, and they're healthier economically. With Detroit and Michigan's economy where it is today, abandoning the arts can only add to that downturn. Although government and corporate support will continue to be components of support for the arts, it's quite clear they will probably be a smaller percentage of that total support going forward. We are fortunate in Detroit, Southeast Michigan, in fact, the entire state of Michigan, because we are the beneficiaries of years of support for arts and culture by the three corporations and their respective foundations who we are recognizing here tonight with our 2009 Arts Legacy Awards: Chrysler Corporation and the Chrysler Foundation, Ford Motor Company and the Ford Motor Company Fund, General Motors Corporation and the General Motors Foundation. Each of our honorees has made significant and lasting contributions that have strengthened and sustained arts and cultural institutions and initiatives in communities throughout the state by granting funds, sponsoring events and activities, through the dedication and time given by their employees as volunteers, active board members, and their attendance at numerous arts and cultural performances and events. Tonight, we publicly recognize these three corporations and their respective foundations and thank them for their legacy of support for arts and culture.